Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering. Here we have the final event before the bannings on the channel. We've got Heather with Death and Taxes versus Ben on Elves, and neither of these decks are going to have any of the banned cards. Astrolabe, Dreadhorde, Arcanist, and Oko not going to be present, and this is a brutally difficult matchup for Death and Taxes. Just about as tough as it gets. Which is odd, because Death and Taxes is usually very well positioned to handle combo decks, and this is a type of combo deck. Now, Spirit of the Labyrinth occasionally matters. You can stop Glimpse of Nature this way, but not going to stop Natural Order. And Elves can go really wide, especially with Nettle Sentinel fueling additional mana thanks to Birchlore Ranger or Heritage Druid. And there is a Heritage Druid and another Heritage, so we're going to get 3 additional mana. And now, oh wow, Reclamation Sage taken out. The Aether Vial, interestingly enough, not caring about the Spirit of the Labyrinth for now. That is an enchantment creature and could have been taken down. A Wirewood Symbiote will be just utterly graphic, enabling the replaying of this Reclamation Sage repeatedly, and perhaps mercifully here. Oh, wow. I am surprised. The Skyclave takes out the Nettle Sentinel. I would have imagined that would have taken out the Wirewood Symbiote, but oh, wow. We've got a Natural Order anyways for just straight up lethal. Everything +4/+4, and that is just a crushing blow. And I'm telling you, this matchup is about as bad as it gets for Death and Taxes. We've had very young players, new to tournament Magic, crush like SCG Open champions here in the store in this matchup before. My nephew, actually. Yeah, I think my nephew, when he played at the shop, so try this one on for Zais. My nephew James shows up to play Legacy at the shop, and I let him borrow Legacy Elves, cradles and everything, so he is just totally psyched. He plays against me in the first round, and I absolutely crush him. Like, just welcome to Legacy, combo out on him, nothing he can do. I'm playing Cephalid Breakfast, and he had like a win like the next turn, where it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be able to Natural Order and win. So I completely wreck him. Start him out on the right track. And then he ends up playing against a Luke, actually. I think he actually beat Luke the next round in an Elf Mirror match. Little outgunned. He had a full set of cradles. I'm not sure if Luke had a cradle at that point yet. And then he ended up playing against a Reanimator deck. And he brought in all of his graveyard hate and got him, which is, that's going to happen. You get your Tormod's Crypts against Reanimator. You can definitely show him what's up. And then in the final round, he got paired against a former SCG Open champion who was on Death and Taxes, and he completely crushed him. So that was his only loss in Legacy. I think that might be the only tournament that he's played so far. And Elves is a really potent deck. Of course, now with Allosaurus Shepherd, I think the deck is easily the best that it's been. I think it's actually the best that it's been, because you lost Deathrite Shaman at one point out of Elves, which was a little bit of a blow. But yeah, I think it's much better to have Allosaurus Shepherd in your deck than it is to have that Deathrite Shaman. As good as Deathrite is, I mean, Allosaurus Shepherd is just straight up ridiculous and addresses all of the core problems of the deck, giving you greater threat redundancy and uncounterability. I mean, it's just phenomenal. Grafdigger's Cage, along with Aether Vial. Wasteland takes out that Bayou. Ooh, and a Gaia's Cradle. A draw with a couple of Wastelands could be really strong here. Now, Grafdigger's Cage wasn't obvious to people at first just how good it was versus Elves, but at the end of the day, it stops Natural Order and your Green Sun Zenith. which is your primary route to victory. Umezawa's Jite is a pretty big problem, but this could be okay. Mother of Runes is going to need to commit to giving pro-green in order to get the Umezawa's Jite through. So we're going to see this Jit or Jite, Jitters, come in and then eventually get equipped and then eventually cross the finish line. Oh, or Flicker Wisp, that's easier. So Flicker Wisp during the end step, exiling Gaia's Cradle, meaning it'll come back during Ben's end step. That'll allow Jit to come down and equip and sending. And there's going to be 2 counters here, so Mother Rune's no longer needing to cause the breakthrough. Wirewood Symbiote takes a counter to the face and is now in the bin. Ben not able to return the Elvish Mystic, presumably because he didn't have another land in hand. He must have drawn that for turn, otherwise it would have entered the battlefield last turn. If he knew he was going to draw that, it would have been nice to get the extra draw. But he needed it. And Abrupt Decay plus Quirion Ranger. And he's fighting. Grafdigger's Cage is been removed. But Heather has a legitimate clock here. Flicker Wisp in the air. Everything on the ground is a little iffy. But probably very much in Heather's benefit to trade a Spirit of the Labyrinth at this point. And was that a Skyclave Apparition? Taking out Ben's meager forces here. He's trying to make it work with this Quirion Ranger and Wirewood Symbiote. Allosaurus Shepherd coming down. And Elvish Visionary, and by God, if he gets this, that is going to be absolutely ridiculous. He's got a Gaia's Cradle, and he's got enough to actually turn everything into 5/5 dinos. This game felt completely lopsided the entire time, and this Allosaurus Shepherd might actually just be showing up and winning the game all by itself. That would be brutal. Heather considering the possibilities here, swinging with both. Looks like Ben is at 12. So if he does swing with both, swinging all out would leave him in a tough spot. And Heather just going to swing for 5 damage. Stoneforge coming in. And this might be enough to do it. So Batterskull can be put in with the other Stoneforge. That is unbelievable that Ben even had a shot at this game. He does have 5 mana at the ready. Quirion Ranger can pick up and put down a land. And needing to pass the turn. Oh, and I gotta disagree here. So a Sword of Fire and Ice gets taken down. Oh, maybe it was Sword of Fire and Ice and not the Batterskull. So Abrupt Decay takes out the Sword of Fire and Ice. Sophie would have dealt lethal. And he can make 20 damage on board, but there are a bunch of blockers in the way. Heather only needs to not die. And Ben will die if he says go. This Mother of Runes can give protection, unless he has another Abrupt Decay. This fetch land not really representing mana, as Flicker Wisp likely to connect, putting him at 3, meaning he is effectively not able to use that 1 mana. Oh, and Skyclave Apparition finally drives a nail in the coffin for that game, but Ben will have the play on game 3. And that is just incredible that he even was in that game. Skyclave Apparition, just a really strong printing from Zendikar Rising. It's interesting that that feels like such a new card. I mean, Kaldheim has already come out since then, and we're going to have Time Spiral Remastered in just a few days. Strixhaven, the month and next month is Strixhaven already. I mean, these sets are coming out very, very quickly. Commander Legends. I mean, there's a lot of product coming out. I will be talking about the 40K and Lord of the Rings crossovers. I've had some people interested in my take on that. In general, I've actually wanted them to make Magic-like games using the Magic resource system for quite a while. You may have heard me talking about that on the channel. And the fact that they're actually Magic, I can't really weigh in until I see them. I don't think like Balin or Frodo are going to be out of place on a Magic board. I don't think that's the end of the world. It does permanently change the flavor of Commander and Vintage and Legacy. I don't know. It might not be a bad thing. I think if people really hate it, then they can just make a format without it. But Legacy at its core, as Vintage is playing with all of the cards that have been printed, that are tournament legal. I mean, I wouldn't really like to see My Little Ponies, but Lord of the Rings might be fine. Or it may just be maybe terrible. Or they might not be good enough. That's the other thing that people need to... Just because cards are legal in Legacy does not mean that they're good enough to play in Legacy. So I tend to doubt they're going to print an entire expansion full of cards that are like legitimately good enough for Legacy play, given that most sets have like a couple of cards at most. Like a random Gimli or something probably doesn't ruin Legacy. You know, like Rick Grimes showing up really just doesn't matter in terms of the flavor of the format, in my estimation. Ooh, Collector Oof. This guy does some heavy lifting in this matchup. Elves, not really known for its sideboard against Death and Taxes, but Collector Oof can pull some serious weight, stopping not only the Aether Vial, but all of the equipment as well. For the most part, I mean, you can still vial in a Batterskull and block with it, but that Batterskull can easily die. Sorry, the Germ can easily die. It is important to note the distinction between the Germ and the Batterskull. But the fact that you can't pick it back up or shift it around on board does make it a single-use card, which is not nearly strong enough. Most of the time. I mean, it'll be like a standard deck, hands down. A 4/4 Vigilance Lifelink, probably good enough to meet, to stop most standard decks, but you know, a Legacy Elf deck, they're going to eventually combo out way over the top of that, or just find an answer to the Germ itself. Or the equipment. I mean, the fact that you can just Reclamation Sage it and not get thwarted by that return to hand element. 4 damage coming in. Some beef here. Just low to the ground. Serious beats a Dryad Arbor along with a Quirin Ranger. And Ben, without any type of comboing at all, is representing 6 damage a turn. Heather's going to be out of there in just a couple of turns. And this Aether Vial normally would be keeping pace. I mean, a Thalia would be phenomenal right now. Just a 2-power first strike creature could hold this entire board back. But instead, she finds herself very much on the back foot. Normally, this would feel very good for the Elf player, or the Death and Taxes player, porting a land during the upkeep, vialing something in, but things are really getting out of hand. If Ben connects one more time, and adds to his board in a meaningful way, Heather's actually just going to be completely out-tempoed in this game, potentially just dead next turn even. Or after her next turn, I should say. 2 swings from Ben, in case I wasn't making my thoughts clear there. Looks like another wasteland, or a wasteland, I should say, and Rashad Port does tap down, leaving the white mana conspicuously open. Ben likely anticipating a Swords to Plowshares, and considering whether or not to attack. A Swords here would look like Collector Oof going away and Thalia jumping in to block and kill something, which would be an absolute disaster. There's the Path to Exile. And, oh, only a Stoneforge. All right. Could have been much worse. It's going to grab Sword of Feast and Famine. And some real carnage there. Feast and Famine, you're going to give pro black and pro green. Also double Heather's mana usage. So that turn really unlocking her potential to keep up with the board. Heritage Druid and Wirewood Symbiote coming down. So Ben could have saved himself that Quirin Ranger by not attacking, anticipating a 1-mana removal spell. Tough to do. Might not even be correct to do. But it definitely felt like a trap. And it was. Thalia would have been pretty bad as well. Taking down any creature that Heather so chose. And now Wasteland takes out the Bayou. A Sanctum Prelate is going to stop the possibility of Natural Order. And Dryad Arbor is tapped down. Allosaurus Shepherd has arrived. And a Gaia's Cradle would be lethal. A one-time use Gaia's Cradle would represent 25 damage coming over the bow. And right now, I mean, that would be an absolute mess. Heather would survive, potentially. In all likelihood, I should say. Skyclave Apparition has to take out the Wirewood Symbiote. Wants to take out the Allosaurus Shepherd, but that is not a possibility with that Wirewood Symbiote in play. And let's see if he's got another Dryad Arbor. He does. That is pretty standard for these lists. And stronger now than ever with the inclusion of Allosaurus Shepherd. And I didn't actually see Ben draw a card. I'm not sure where we are here. Probably during his upkeep. Dryad Arbor getting tapped down. Okay. It looks like he's hellbent here. Reclamation Sage coming down, taking out the Aether Vial. And Sword of Feast and Famine still in Heather's hand, I believe. Unless I'm crossing my games up. I mean, Stoneforge has come down. It definitely searched something up. I believe it was sort of Feast and Famine this game. And now, finally, with the 2 mana to put it in during the end step. But the top of Ben's deck, absolutely terrifying. Any time a Cradle could come off the top and just turn this into a total blowout. Sword of Feast and Famine, getting attached, turning sideways, 4 damage, everything untapping, and going to be able to go after Ben's entire mana base, but it is a Cradle that is the most terrifying here. These Dryad Arbors, unfortunately, are creatures, and Birchlore Ranger opting not to be played as a 2/2, which is interesting. I probably would have played that face down. Umezawa's Jite pushing through serious damage. Face down gives you the ability to block this sort of Feast and Famine as a colorless creature. Allosaurus Shepherd bites the dust, as does Heritage Druid, and this is looking like Heather's going to be winning one of the toughest matchups in Legacy. Almost like beating Death and Taxes with Reanimator. You take it when you can get it. But they are few and far between. Path to Exile. And Assassin's Trophy takes out the Jite. Mother of Runes preventing that from being as impactful as it otherwise would. And now all of the swords just sword juggling, crashing through for victory with protection from just about everything. Mother of Runes doesn't even need to help out at that point, as Heather takes down a very, very difficult matchup. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.